Good morning to all our listeners tuning into Hot Topic and Fresh News, today, June 20th, 2024, at 5 in the morning. We're here to bring you the critical updates from around the globe. Key on our radar today is the ongoing situation in Ukraine. Ukrainian officials are claiming significant strides in their battle against corruption, with a series of high-profile arrests and the establishment of various anti-corruption bodies. Despite these advancements, skepticism from Western governments persists, with concerns that not enough has been done to warrant the continuation of substantial aid. The U.S., while supportive, has delayed aid packages citing these corruption concerns, emphasizing the need for stronger regulatory environments and transparency. Ukraine counters this perspective by highlighting the progress made and critiquing the West for harboring double standards on corruption issues. This tension underscores a broader geopolitical dilemma, balancing the urgent need to combat corruption with the pressing goal of countering Russian aggression. Stay with us as we delve deeper into this story and more, right here on Hot Topic and Fresh News. Hello, everyone! I'm your host, Emily, coming to you live from New York City.
And joining her today, this is David from San Francisco.
We're thrilled to have you with us on Hot Topic and Fresh News. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated with the latest news and insights. Straight to the hot topics.
Could you give us an overview of the current state of Ukraine's fight against corruption?
Absolutely. Ukraine has been actively combating corruption, evidenced by a series of high-profile arrests and dismissals. Just in late May, a former deputy head of the presidential administration was charged with illicit enrichment. Additionally, the head of cybersecurity and the country's chief justice faced similar charges. This indicates a robust effort to clean up corruption.
With these arrests, what's the reaction from the Western governments?
While Ukraine is making visible efforts, Western governments, including the United States, are urging for more action. They are cautious and continue to express concerns, as billions in aid are closely tied to Ukraine's ability to effectively manage and reduce corruption.
How significant is the impact of these corruption cases on military and economic assistance from the West?
It's quite significant. For instance, concerns about corruption were a major reason behind a months-long delay by Republican members of Congress in approving a multi-billion-dollar aid package. This delay coincided with Russian advances, illustrating how domestic issues like corruption can have profound implications on international aid and security.
What's the Ukrainian government's stance on these Western demands?
Ukrainian officials argue they're not given enough credit for the progress made. They believe the focus should rather be on addressing the immediate threat from Russia, suggesting that an overemphasis on anti-corruption efforts might distract from their defense objectives.
How does Ukraine justify its effectiveness in fighting corruption amidst these challenges?
Ukrainian authorities claim that the increase in corruption cases is a sign of their effectiveness, not an increase in corruption itself. They point out that doubling the number of cases reflects their commitment and capability to tackle corruption more aggressively than before.
How significant is the U.S. influence on Ukraine's anti-corruption efforts?
The influence is quite strong. Dozens of agents from the U.S. State Department's Office of Inspector General are stationed at the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv, overseeing and participating in numerous diplomatic meetings. This indicates a deep level of involvement and oversight by the United States in Ukraine's internal affairs, particularly in combating corruption.
Given the long-standing issue of corruption in Ukraine, what changes have been observed since the Maidan Revolution?
Since the 2014 Maidan Revolution, Ukraine has established several new bodies aimed at combating corruption. These include the National Anti-Corruption Bureau, the High Anti-Corruption Court, and the National Agency on Corruption Prevention, among others. These agencies represent a significant reform in the Ukrainian governance structure, aiming to dismantle the deep-rooted corruption.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken recently made comments in Kyiv. Could you elaborate on his stance regarding Ukraine's efforts?
Secretary Blinken acknowledged Ukraine's progress in fighting corruption but emphasized that much more needs to be done. He outlined the need for a strong and predictable regulatory environment, open and fair competition, transparency, and effective anti-corruption measures. His remarks underline the US's expectation for more comprehensive reforms.
How is the Ukrainian government responding to these international pressures, especially from key allies like the US?
The response has been mixed. While Ukrainian officials appreciate the support, there is also a sense of frustration, especially from the top, including President Zelensky. They argue that while fighting corruption is crucial, the primary focus should remain on the immediate threat from Russia. This tension was evident in recent meetings with US officials, where the focus on corruption was seen as somewhat detracting from military and defensive priorities.
Is there a risk that too much focus on corruption could distract from Ukraine's military objectives against Russia?
Absolutely, and that's a concern shared by many within Zelensky's administration. They believe that while it's important to combat corruption, the existential threat posed by Russia should be the priority. They argue that a balance must be struck to ensure that efforts to fight corruption do not undermine the crucial military campaign.
How are Ukrainian officials perceiving the Western portrayal of their country's corruption issues?
Ukrainian officials feel that the narrative of endemic corruption is being used unfairly by Western countries as a pretext to delay needed aid. They argue it reflects a double standard, pointing out that many Western countries have faced their own corruption scandals. This feeling of hypocrisy fuels resentment and complicates diplomatic relations.
Deputy Prime Minister Ole Stefanishina expressed strong opinions last year regarding the EU's stance. Could you delve into that?
Yes, Stefanishina highlighted the perceived hypocrisy by pointing out that some European leaders themselves have been embroiled in corruption scandals. She questioned why Ukraine is held to a higher standard and critiqued the West for what she sees as moralizing without clean hands themselves.
Can you give examples where Western officials themselves might not have been as transparent as demanded of Ukraine?
Certainly. An example brought up by Ukrainian officials involves a senior EU official who owned a luxury hotel in Bali since 2009 but wasn't required to disclose this under EU rules. This kind of inconsistency in the application of anti-corruption standards is exactly what frustrates Ukrainian leaders.
What about the broader impact of these perceptions on Ukraine's international relations?
These perceptions definitely strain relations, particularly as Ukraine is trying to align itself more closely with European standards to further its European Union membership bid. The tension over corruption narratives complicates this alignment, as Ukraine feels it is being unjustly judged.
How does this situation affect the morale within Ukraine's judicial and political systems?
It's a mixed scenario. While there's a push to meet European rule of law standards, ongoing corruption within the power structure, which is still influenced by oligarchic control, remains a significant challenge. This contradiction can demoralize reformers who are striving to effect genuine changes.
It seems this ongoing debate over corruption could have broader international repercussions.
Absolutely. For instance, the late Chief Justice Nyasyev impressed many U.S. officials as a symbol of integrity just weeks before his arrest on bribery charges. Such incidents can abruptly shift perceptions and potentially jeopardize vital international support.
I've never pondered the consequences that breaking news like this could have on our international posture. Quite a point to mull over, isn't it?
Indeed, it underscores the delicate balance between managing domestic reforms and maintaining crucial international relationships. Every move and every headline can tip the scales in unpredictable ways.
With such intense pressure from both the public and international bodies, how is the Ukrainian government managing expectations regarding their anti-corruption efforts?
The challenge is immense. Public demands for a corruption-free government are high, and these expectations were a significant factor in President Zelensky's election. He promised sweeping reforms, but experts warned that the bar might be set too high, which could lead to disillusionment if swift progress isn't seen.
What's the role of judicial reform in this context?
Judicial reform is absolutely critical. It's been described as the cornerstone of anti-corruption efforts. If the judiciary is corrupt, then effectively, the society lacks rights, opening the door to autocracy. This highlights the necessity of clean and competent courts to uphold the law impartially.
How does the ongoing conflict with Russia impact Ukraine's corruption issues?
The war adds a complex layer. While it might seem counterintuitive, the conflict has not halted investigative journalism or the push for transparency. Officials like Yaroslav Yurchyshin pointed out that, unlike in Russia or Belarus, Ukrainian journalists continue to uncover corruption even during these turbulent times.
There seems to be a notion pushed by Russian propaganda viewing Ukraine as a failed state. How does this affect Ukraine's image internationally?
It's a significant propaganda challenge. Deputy Prime Minister Stefanishina mentioned that no matter what reforms Ukraine undertakes, they're often not recognized as successful by outsiders. This perception battle is critical, especially given the billions in aid that Kyiv receives. Ukraine is under constant scrutiny to prove itself, to appear, as Stefanishina put it, saintlier than the Pope.
It certainly puts into perspective the delicate balance Ukraine must maintain between reform, fighting a war, and managing international perceptions.
Exactly. It's a multifaceted challenge where every step forward in reform must be carefully weighed against these broader geopolitical and internal dynamics. Thanks for tuning into Hot Topic and Fresh News today. We've delved into the intricate issue of Ukraine's fight against corruption amidst a geopolitical tug-of-war. It's been insightful discussing these pivotal developments with you. Remember, your engagement helps keep our content dynamic and far-reaching. So, hit subscribe, activate notifications, and share our episodes far and wide. Your feedback in the comments section is invaluable to us.
And hey, if you're looking for a bit of wit mixed with your news analysis, you're in the right place. Make sure to join us daily. You never know what interesting tidbit might pop up next time. It's always something to look forward to, so keep us on your radar.
We truly appreciate your time and attention. It's viewers like you who make Hot Topic and Fresh News such a fantastic journey. We're excited for the next episode and hope you are too.
Absolutely, and remember, it's not just about staying informed, it's also about having a bit of fun with the news.
Stay in the loop, keep your eyes on the news, our channel's content will amuse.